And like, and I went through my novels trying to decide what which one would be the best fit. And what I realized is that most of my writing I really love, but I think I would be embarrassed to share with the internet. Um, it's something, I don't know if we mentioned it when we talked about my writing the other week, but like my when you write something, okay, so there's this author, Terry Goodkind. He's pretty famous. He wrote the Sword of Truth series. There's like 20 books in that series, including prequels and all kinds of weird crap. But his name's Terry Goodkind, and the books are okay. Like, there's some good parts and there's some really, really dumb parts, but like mostly I enjoyed them. Um, but if you read his books, there's a theme throughout his entire series that love is tied to submission. So, like, he has women characters that go around in bondage. I forget what they're called. I forget what their name is, but like he has these women who are clearly like dominant people. So they wear bondage gear, they cause people pain, which they talk about as though it's pleasurable. And it's a real theme in his books that pain and dominance and submission are all tied to loving someone. And so there are many points in those stories where like one character has to like make themselves a supplicant of another in order to prove that they care about them. And so reading these books, you get the real impression that Terry Goodkind has some like S&M style opinions about love and sexual interaction and just companionship and the concept of making oneself a submissive to another person in order to attain their love. And I mostly don't really agree with those things, but by reading his books, you definitely see those themes. Just like Clive Barker's a good example because he did like Hellraiser and some of those, what's the other one? Oh, I'm blanking. It's that terrible movie with Sam Neill and Morpheus is in it. It's the spaceship movie where they go to hell and it's all a hell dimension opens up. I can't think of the name of it right now. I'm blanking. I'm really bad with names when I'm put on the spot like that. Event Horizon, yes, thank you so much. So Clive Barker, if you read his books or watch his movies, there's a real theme of like BDSM and bondage and that kind of stuff. And he fully admits like, hey, this is something I was exploring at the time and it affected my writing and it showed through to my writing. And I think that no matter who you are as a writer, when you tell a story, you're putting part of yourself into the book. So like you can look at any given writer's stuff and you can identify things about them and about their worldview, and it's very revealing about how they think about the world and interact with the world. So like Stephen King is a pretty easy example as well. There are huge themes of bullying in his books. There's a lot of themes of absentee parents and parents turning a blind eye to abusive behavior, abusive parents, things like that. Those themes are present in tons of Stephen King books to the point where it's like a cliche. Like if you watch a CinemaSins video on a Stephen King movie, they're going to point out like, oh, every movie he does has hardcore bullies in it, and et cetera, et cetera. So my fear is that sharing my writing is going to reveal things about me, and I might not be aware of what those things are until it's already been revealed. Can't go down here? Oh, it's an upstairs. Oh, we'll check the upstairs as well. Giant cockroach is in the way. Attempt to push past. You may have to fight your way back up. I'm going to say no because we did just fight a giant roach army. I see. So he can come up the stairs anyway. We'll peek. No, there's a lot of roaches. It's probably the same exact layout we just saw. I don't think there are other roach basements at the moment. This does look different. We'll check. We'll peek around. Roaches and zombies, big surprise. I really wish they would fight each other. I don't really know why they don't. Because they are giant roaches. What size are the giant roaches? The size of a small dog. Yeah, I would think that they would be large enough to fight with the zombies, given that they are willing to fight with us. We're missing a lot as well. Why are we missing so much? Cold, pain, thirst. Base move costs 162. Why? Maybe because we're in full plate armor, probably. Probably has something to do with it. Okay, let's pulp these. So, do the giant cockroaches revive? Mangled? I don't think they have a zombie variant yet. What is this? A rotten mango. Why don't we eat some of the stuff we found since we're hungry and whatnot? Eat an orange, why not? Eat 2 oranges, why not? And, oh, I picked up the mead to bring with me. I didn't even realize I had done that. Great. Definitely grabbed the lentils. Why didn't I pick those up before? So I'm a little nervous about sharing stuff from my writing because, like, I have a very dark worldview, and most of the time when I'm on stream, yeah, they don't have a zombie variant, or they would have the pulp symbol. Definitely someone should add zombie roaches to the game. Why not? If you're looking for something relatively easy, it's not that hard to duplicate a creature and give them a zombie variant, because not that much changes from like a damage perspective and whatnot. So pretty easy if you're interested. We have plague nymphs. Those could use a refluff. Do those still exist? I mean, I guess they still exist. But do they spawn for other than filth or whatever? I don't really remember the mechanics. They exist, they don't spawn. Okay. I'd love to see them back. Yeah, I really was excited when they talked about when they implemented vermin. They were talking about corpses and diseases as well, and I was really excited to have a reason to like burn corpses, to pull rotten food out of your house, that kind of stuff. Because I already do like the food. I don't like having rotten food in my base, but like I don't burn corpses because there's no reason not to. And they had talked about adding disease mechanics, and then vermin got disabled, and I haven't heard anything about it in years. It's been like 2 years probably since that was implemented. Let me think about it. No, maybe like a year and a half ago. I don't remember. It's been a long time for sure though. Oh, we heard something, but there's nothing in here. Okay, leather duster, we'll take that. Travel pack, is that the one we're wearing? Yeah, we can make those, so that's not a huge concern to pick that up. So, you know, I don't have anything like super horrible that I'm going to reveal to you, but like in my recording, I try to keep my depression to a minimum. We've definitely had it roll out of control on a few streams and YouTube videos and stuff. But like I try not to just overwhelm you with my horrible inner workings. And like on Discord, if I say something really dark, I tend to delete it. Like yesterday, I forget what they were talking about. They were talking about having money, and I said something like, if it weren't for my family, I'd be homeless by now, assuming I didn't kill myself. And then I was like, oh, you just said something super dark. Maybe don't put that in the Discord, so I deleted it. So I try to censor myself on stream and when I interact with people. But in my writing, I don't know. I'm just worried. Like the story that I would be reading, it has a bunch of murders in it, and horrible deaths in it, and like the very first chapter, there's a dead kid, and I was like, you know, people are gonna be upset by this. You know, for me, it's like it is dark, but like whatever, it happens. You know, it's a horror story. Basically, people die. But then I was like, you know, people get really triggered when there are dead kids, and the story follows a bunch of high schoolers, so everyone's like a young person, and people are dying, and some of the deaths, like I don't believe in gratuity, so like when I read a book and they're graphically describing sex, I'm like, this is terrible. When I read a book and they're graphically describing like bloody gore and decapitations, I'm like, this is horrible. So I don't really believe in gratuity. I think that bad writers do that. They over-describe things because they're bad writers, and they think like, oh, if I just add a lot of sex, it'll be okay. So I don't do any of that. But like, since I don't linger, like at one point a kid dies, and it's an accident. There's an accident that happens. This kid dies, and I describe it, but very briefly, because I don't like to linger on things like that, because I know some people get upset. with gore and blood, and again, it is the death of a kid who's like 17, 18 years old. It's like, don't linger on it, don't describe it, just give brief sentences. And I reread it and I was like, man, this is freaking brutal, because it's so casual, because I'm not describing it, I'm just glossing over this kid who had a horrible thing happen to him and now he's dead. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just am concerned. And then like there's the self-esteem stuff where it's like, if I get a bunch of really nasty comments, it's going to affect me very negatively. And we'll take the hydrogen peroxide here. And like, you're making yourself vulnerable, you're putting yourself out there. No one's ever read this story. This is just me. I wrote this. Oh, I hate that music had like a record sound at the end of it, the static from a record. I hate that. And like, I used to let my girlfriends and, some of my random guy friends read my stuff, but this story, no one's ever read it. It's completely raw out of my brain, and I'm just worried. It's just nervousness. It's the same thing when I started streaming or whatever. You just get nervous and you think like the worst is gonna happen, and I don't know. I'm a little I don't know if I'm gonna do it yet. I'm just, I don't know. Another pretty empty basement. I can't tell you the last time I've seen a gun basement. I guess when, was it Curse Twist did all the basements? I guess when they expanded basements, they probably readjusted the percentages or the weights of them so that they would be less frequent. Looks like we're about full up as well. This is the pool basement. I still have never met a human being who has a pool in their basement, but whatever. Oh, with 3 toilets and 3 showers. What kind of basement is this? Who puts 3, whatever, and some workout? Like maybe a neighborhood gym kind of in their basement. Maybe they bring other people over to, I don't know. So yeah, I'm thinking about doing some things. I'm rereading the story, trying to decide if this is acceptable or not. I didn't want to write something from scratch because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to keep to a schedule. But like, if I pick a book I've already written, I can just work on it, a chapter a week or whatever, and read the chapter, and that be it, instead of having to put in all the work that goes into writing a new novel from scratch. We're gonna let this wound bleed and see how long it takes to dissipate. You lose some blood. Oh, I just walked into, where am I? Oh, yes, I should have been hugging the north here. Let's, once again, not paying attention is going to lead to me getting injured. I'm still bleeding, so it's not as quick of a result as I expected. I also got stuck on something here. Maybe he grabbed me. Did he grab me? He did grab me, okay. Shotgun slug, absolutely. Oh, we don't have space. I mean, I don't need all the crap I picked up. I don't need a sleeveless duster. We can drop that. I just picked it up because it's a big item with leather. Definitely want the slugs, though. Go ahead and use the bandage. I don't like the idea of letting my character bleed. Oh, I've stopped bleeding. Never mind, then. Fantastic. Go ahead back to base here. Drunken Slender says, I like dark stories. Everyone says that. And I think a lot of people do, but like, some people get really triggered by, especially like, that was like my first thought. Like, I was reading it and I was like, okay, it's not really for everyone. It kind of follows a group of like high school students who are about to graduate. So like, a lot of adults don't want to read stories about, high school kids anyway. And then I was like, a lot of these kids die. And a lot of people get triggered about kids dying, and a lot of them are 18, but like some people still view them as children because they're still in high school. So like, people are going to be upset that you're killing kids, essentially, in this story. And I went back and I reread it, and there's more nudity than I thought. Like, part of the core, well, I don't want to review anything about the story, but like, there's a guy who's making these things, and it doesn't matter, but there's some nudity in it. And I was rereading it and I was like, man, I don't remember putting nudity in it. And then I was like, do I really want to be the guy who writes stories about nudity and murdering kids? It's like, I don't know, it just made me feel weird rereading it and thinking like, this is not what I remember it being. It's a lot rougher than I thought it was. It's a lot more stuff that will upset some people, and I don't know what my audience likes, and you're revealing yourself, you're making yourself vulnerable. There's all these little things, but regardless of that, it felt good to sit down and work on something and kind of have like an ultimate goal in mind. And then over the weekend as well, I've been doing a lot of D&D stuff lately, listening to Critical Role. Oh, you know, I don't have a drink here. I'm gonna pop over here and grab a drink really quick. It's not good to go like an hour without drinking anything, especially when it's so dang warm. Canned sounds. Delicious. So, I've been listening to Critical Role, which is D&D. They do tabletop role-playing games, mostly D&D. I guess they do one-shots of other things, but I haven't gotten there yet. I'm only on like episode 14, I think, of the second season. Because the first season, there was some stuff, the audio wasn't very good in some of the episodes, so I just said, we'll start at season 2. And so I've been listening to them, I've been looking up rules, I've been checking out Roll20. I really want to do some D&D stuff. I really, really want to play a tabletop RPG. Not really D&D. D&D is something that's like, I'm not a huge fan of fantasy, you know. Right now I'm watching some guides on Call of Cthulhu. Never played that before. I've heard about it, of course. Very popular. A lot of people recommend it. I'm really interested in playing, and I really want to make time to get into a game. So I've been doing a lot of the tabletop RPG stuff, and that led me to go through my old stuff from when I was incarcerated. Spoiler alert, if you don't know, I was incarcerated for about 2.5 years, almost closer to 3 years. About, like 10 years ago, I guess. It's been a minute now, but anyway, I still have my D&D stuff from when I was incarcerated, because we would play D&D, and I thought, why don't I make a video explaining how we managed to play D&D in prison when you can't have dice, you can't have the books, there's all kinds of limits on what you can do. You know, obviously we didn't have figurines or anything like that, and I could show you the books we used because I still have copies of them. I could show you some of the maps I drew, and it turned out we don't have a camera, so like I would have to use a phone, which would be really bad quality, so I bailed on that. But looking at all that stuff again made me want to play so bad, and not only that, but I found my manuscripts from the books I wrote when I was incarcerated, so that was like a fun distraction to go through all my old stuff. You find the maps, you find old characters, and you're like, man, I remember the campaign I was running, I remember telling this story, I remember where it was supposed to go, and it's got me really wanting to write and to GM a game of something. Have you looked at Shadowrun or Eclipse Phase? I've never heard of Eclipse Phase. Shadowrun is one I am not super interested in. I do not like things that blend fantasy and sci-fi. If I'm going to play a game, I want it to be one or the other. Fantasy, I would play D&D or Pathfinder, or maybe like the Fate system. It just depends on what kind of game we would be playing. If I'm going to go sci-fi, it's going to be like Call of Cthulhu or Rifts, or maybe one of the superhero games. I don't really want to play a superhero tabletop, but like, I know they're pretty popular, or they were pretty popular like 10 years ago, so I don't know if they still are, but I don't like things that overlap fantasy and sci-fi, so I just don't like Shadowrun. I know a lot of people really love it, I just don't like it at all. Eclipse Phase is more hard sci-fi, basically altered carbon RPG. I do like sci-fi stuff. Sometimes the hardcore sci-fi does not appeal to me. Like I mentioned Rifts. Rifts was a game from like the 90s that was like hardcore sci-fi, lots of aliens, bionics, superpower mental stuff, and like just really hard into the sci-fi, and I didn't love that. I like things about it, but you know, I would prefer something more like honestly, Call of Cthulhu sounds like it's the perfect game for me. Like, it's vaguely sci-fi and fantasy, but it's also more about the horror than anything else, and I think that that appeals to me. Plus, to my understanding, it's much more roleplay intensive than something like D&D. Like, D&D at its core has a real focus on combat. I think Shadow excuse me. I think Shadowrun's a lot like that too, where there's like a real focus on, like, there's role playing, but it's also pretty combat focused, I think, and world building focused. So I don't know, Shadowrun, I just don't like the I don't know. I just never liked Shadowrun. I played several of the computer games that were released from Shadowrun. I just never could get into it. We were already down here. Wasn't there a Taylor's kit down here that I didn't grab? I would like a Taylor's kit, please. Taylor's kit. Trying to think of other RPGs you've played. I've only played D&D 3.5. I played like 2 sessions of 4.0, but 4th edition's really bad in D&D circles. Just not really what I was looking for. The games I really want to play are zombie games. There are a couple. Most of them are really, really bad and not worth playing at all. Like the one zombie game I was looking at, I can't remember. In fact, let me pull up. I think I have the PDF for that one. I don't have very many tabletop PDFs, but I did buy some a long time ago. I bought some zombie ones, tabletops. Was it the End of the World Zombie Apocalypse? I think this was the one that came with absolutely no combat rules at all, and it was entirely supposed to be mental. It was either the End of the World Zombie Apocalypse or All Flesh Must Be Eaten is the other one. I only have the core book for that, but one of them is like completely no combat rules, no nothing. It's all about just telling the story from your brain. And on one side, I kind of like that, but on the other side, I like having tactical combat in my tabletops. I just prefer it to be... I do prefer mostly role-playing, but I also like sometimes getting into the nitty-gritty of like a 40-minute combat encounter. It's just... I enjoy that, you know. Hollow Earth was fun, very pulpy. Vampire was fun as well, heavy on storytelling. We've talked about the Vampire franchise before. I think we talked about that last stream. I've not played the tabletop. I've heard good things. And for me, the video games were always about the world that they were building, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know. I don't like vampires that much, though. Like, literally the supernatural creature that is a vampire, I just don't like them that much. So I don't know if I'd be super into it. But I wouldn't say no to possibly playing a game of that or two. Right now, like I said, I'm very focused right now on Call of Cthulhu. I've been watching some guy on YouTube's giving a basic intro on how to play the game and what it's like, and I think I'm gonna try to sign up for a game and see what it's like. I really love tabletop RPGs. Like conceptually, I love the idea. I like board games, I like tabletops, I like card games, anything that plays with like a physical thing in front of you that also kind of merges with your imagination. I love those things so much. They remind me of simpler times when I was a child. You know, it's 4 in the morning. We've explored all these houses. Let's head back before the sun comes up and we get ourselves into trouble. And yeah, I really like the idea of tabletops, and Call of Cthulhu is just like horror-y, and I would really like to just ease back into it because I would like to run some games. If I ran a game, it would probably be D&D, but I would like to get back into playing them, and I would love to make that kind of content for the channel. Even if it's not that much content, I would love to put together a game and just run a game, and it would make me happy. Like, it would be less about trying to please YouTube, which is what I fall into the trap of sometimes, and it would be more about me having fun and doing something that I would enjoy. Plus it's storytelling, which is something that I really not only do I enjoy doing, but I think I'm pretty good at. We did a one-shot of some Call of Cthulhu system, not sure which one, but we all played ourselves in the game. It was actually hella fun. I think they're on like 7th edition or something like that. I'm not sure. That's the other thing apparently, is that Call of Cthulhu is like super compatible. So like if you pick up a adventure module from like 2nd edition, you can run it in 7th edition without any problems. I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know, tabletops, if you haven't played, if you're listening to this and you're like, the hell are they talking about? I would encourage you to check out some tabletops. Roll20 and other virtual tabletops have made things really accessible for people. It's very easy to find new player games. I'd encourage you to check it out. They're a lot of fun. Telling stories is hugely, in my opinion, a very valuable thing that people often undervalue. Elbowcat says, when you discuss the various interests of fiction authors, you mentioned Terry Goodkind. It sounded like you were at first describing John Norman's Gore series. Seems to be quite controversial due to the pervasiveness of submissive women in BDSM. I don't know that author. I'll be honest, I don't read that much. I read the majority of the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind many years ago. And I just remember at the time thinking, man, he really focuses on being submissive and like swearing fealty to people and kind of putting yourself as the lesser in the relationship. And I thought that was odd because I kind of believe that people should be on equal footing in a relationship. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with BDSM or with submissive women. I personally historically have dated women who are more of these submissive homemakery types, so I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with those people. What I think is the issue is when people try to force other people into those boxes. So I wasn't trying to badmouth anything, just wanted to point that out, because I think that everyone has a different concept of what love looks like and what a sexual encounter should look like and what the dynamics of any given relationship. It's up to, if you're both involved and you're okay with something, then do what you want. Juju's pervasive. I'll check that out. It sounds kind of interesting. Sword of Truth series is like, it's pretty high fantasy, and the themes are pretty prevalent, so it's not like it's going to be something you're going to miss, but it is like a 15-book series or 20-book series. So it's kind of hit and miss which book you pick up, how pervasive it is. I like the first 3 books of Sword of Truth. After that, I think he got preachy, but that's probably just me. I don't know that I could pick out which books were which. I know I read I think almost all of them up until they started doing like prequels and stuff. I think like the first 12 books follow Richard and Kaylin, and then the rest are like other like preface type books. Didn't read those, but I think I read them. I think I read almost all of them. They're okay. I mean, I don't think that they're very. I'm sure if you spoke to some people, they would tell you how amazing he is. I thought the writing was okay. I thought the story they told was mostly interesting. Some of the magic stuff, the concepts of like positive and negative magic and the way they interact, is interesting. I didn't love the series though. If I had to pick one science fiction or fantasy author, it's always going to be Jim Butcher. We've talked about him with the Dresden Files and the Codex Alera series. If you're interested in a fantasy book series, I really enjoyed the Codex Alera what are they called? It's something. It's like they're all named something's Fury, like the Precursor's Fury and that kind of stuff. Is it Codex Alera or Codex? Codex Alera. It is Codex Alera. This is a fantasy book series by Jim Butcher. The series chronicles the coming of age of a young man named Tavi in the realm of Alera, an empire similar to Rome on the world of Karna. And it focuses a lot on elementals. So I really, I thought that was cool. Because fantasy novels tend to follow the same tropes, so it's always nice when something's a little bit different, like the focus on elementals, which is something I'd never really read before. Let's grab a book to read here instead of talking to my audience the whole time and alienating the people watching on YouTube. I think mechanics or electronics. Let's go electronics. Advanced electronics. Sun will be up soon. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. We have lost, no, MP3 on. Have another swig of beer. Do we still have the mead? I would drink a mead. And we're very hungry. I don't want to be very hungry. Let's eat something really quickly. We eat some canned chicken here. That ought to do it. And we'll go and read. Read until you gain a level. Dresden, I love it. Yeah, it's probably my favorite modern authors book series would be the Dresden Files. Anyone read Black Company? It's on my list to read. I don't know that one. Your splash screen is still up. Thank you. Yes. I was supposed to get better at noticing that because I have a separate monitor now, but I guess I still will miss it occasionally. Thank you.